Hello everyone. Welcome back to Munmun Ma'am's Nutshell classes. As promised, today's class is on how to write a story. Now, stories are a topic that you deal with from very early in childhood till later. In West Bengal board, even in our 11th standard, we have story writings. So I'm going to try to tell you how I think you can write stories easily and you can make a difference in your own writing style right from now onwards. As you can see, today I have selected a very different setting. This is a 6th floor terrace and there is a wind blowing, it's sunny. Winter is coming, the sunlight feels so nice on the skin, and it's an afternoon. It reminds me of my own childhood. When I was a child, my grandma used to tell me such enchanting stories. She used to tell stories about kings and queens and other kingdoms with other villain kings fighting for princesses, for lands. And she often told stories about kings that went to other countries to see other things and face other challenges. She told me stories about merchants whose ships got sunk, but then again, with their chivalrous ways, they got their health and wealth and everything back. It was such a lovely time when grandmas used to lull you to sleep telling stories. So mothers, grandmas have these challenges. They keep on telling stories for years. They run out of their original stories, and what they are telling then is actually something they have fabricated. Just like that. Now, what is it about stories that some storytellers are very good? किसी किसी के स्टोरीज बहुत अच्छे होते हैं और किसी किसी के इतना नहीं अच्छा होता है. When we write stories, we often think that we are in a classroom, the teacher is going to check and this is the task, so we have to show her a story. Sometimes we write stories during our examinations and we feel like, oh my god, it's an examination hall, I have 20 minutes, I'll have to finish, so let me just write. These are the hints. Now, stories are of two kinds as we face it. One in which, the easier one, where the hints are all given. Hints dewa thake. The hints are all given. All you have to do is make one sentence with one hint. Okay. Each hint has to be made into complete sentence and you can put a little bit of this and that extra there to write your story. The other kind is that you have been given to write the entire story. Maybe the name has been given, you have to write from that single word, or maybe the moral has been given, you have to fabricate an entire story. So the challenge now is, how can you make your story sound good? How can you make your story interesting? Today, I'm going to tell you just that. Follow me. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can hear it. There is the sound of azan coming from here and it's so enchanting. It's the tune, it's the tone. Sometimes even when you do not understand the chanting, the words, you feel enchanted. So there is something about everything that is vocal or even written that can grasp you. Coming back to stories. Suppose there is a little child who is telling you to tell a story because he wants to go to sleep. তোমাকে গল্প বলতে বলেছে এই বাচ্চাটা, তো তুমি গল্প বলছো. So you have taken to bed with this child and you are telling a story. Your task is to tell a story and then the child will go to sleep. That often happens. Suppose you start telling something like this. There was a kingdom, a very big kingdom, and there was a king and there was a queen too. So the kingdom was very big and lot of people stayed there, and there was a wall around the palace premises, and there was a tree across the walls of the palace boundary. On that tree there lived a ghost whose name was Bholu. He was a very old ghost, but he lived on that tree. You are making the story up, okay? It is a ghost story. You're making it up. But the way you are telling it, there was a kingdom. There was a king there. There. Similar sentences. The tone in which you are saying, there was a king also, and it was a very big kingdom. The tone. I'm talking about speaking, but later on we'll come. The framing of sentences, the tone, everything. Now, do you think the child is going to stay awake? Or maybe if he's a naughty child, he will stop you in the middle and say, come on, tell me another story, maybe a story about a tiger. Why? Why will the child not feel interested? Rather, why would the child not feel like listening to it with attention? Maybe the child will fall asleep. But if this is the way I tell a story, then I am a very bad storyteller. Same story. Now listen to this one. You begin like this. Vikramgarh was a very big kingdom. A lot of people lived there. And for 30 years, that kingdom had seen happiness and prosperity like never before. Even the farmers were happy and rich. There were trees, there were fruits, there were birds, there were paddy fields that felt happy in the evening with the sunset. There were rivers, and there were very happy children playing around the palace. Yes, there was the king's palace. King Vikram Singh was very famous for his big heart and generosity. He gave away alms to every beggar. Sonavati was his queen, a befitting queen. She was as beautiful as she was generous. They lived in this very beautiful palace full of mango trees and banana trees, little ponds, and in the ponds there were lotuses. Servants worked in the garden day and night trying to keep the garden clean. There was a little temple at the border of the premises. In that temple, there was puja during the morning and in the evening. Across the boundary wall stood a very, very huge banyan tree. One who would look at the banyan tree would see nothing but rustling leaves. But amongst those leaves, on a specific branch, there always sat a ghost. Bholu the ghost has been living here for the last 70 years. He had this big eyes and ears that were hairy and long. He had a crooked nose, but a very innocent smile. All day he dangled his legs, sitting on the branch of the tree, and watched the king's garden, the king's terrace, where the queen and the king roamed about early in the morning. And he watched all the gardeners pruning the trees. Same story, but interesting. How did I make it interesting? What is special in this narration that was missing in the previous narration? First of all, the tone, because I'm talking right now, you understand the difference of the tone. The first tone was repetitive, monotonous. This tone is different. Sentences are different. Each sentence, if I start a sentence with there was a kingdom named Vikramgarh, next sentence will be in that kingdom lived a king called Vikram Singh. I will never say there was a king again. But that is not it. There are more things. What makes a story interesting? Little details. I named the king Vikram Singh. I named the queen. I named the kingdom. I even named the ghost, Bholu. I give little descriptions of the garden, of the kingdom, the people living there. इससे क्या होता है? Story में जैसे जाना जाता है. It becomes so real. And you feel like this must be true. This story must be true because there are so many details. And even though this is a ghost, I have given it a twist that the ghost's name is Bholu and he has a very innocent smile. He's very, rough in his looks, his ears and nose and everything. He's not very pleasant to look at, but he has an innocent smile. So that makes my story interesting. So, how do we make a story interesting when we write it? First, we try to make it sound real. What are the tricks to make it sound real? You give people names, you give places names, you give every character and everything names. Remember the names, don't confuse the names, okay? Next thing is that you give descriptions, and then your sentences should be beautifully made. If I say there were rose plants in the garden, the next sentence would be, and pretty roses, pink and red, bloomed in winter, and you could smell it from far away. That is exactly what makes a story beautiful. But in your case, most of the times, especially West Bengal board students, you have very limited word, word limit is very little. So you will try to stick to your points. Points से stick करे थकबे. लेकिन क्या करना है आप लोगों को कि hint का sentence बनाते हुए भी कुछ descriptions extra, something extra आप डाल दीजिए ताकि आपका story में जाना जाए. It is the life, it is this breathing feeling of your writing that makes your writing something special. The hints are the same for everyone, but if you are going to write something special, it should come right from your imagination. Be it any writing. The tool, the weapon that you use is your imagination, and it is like this open sky, with birds that are unpredictable, like clouds that are unpredictable and that might bring shower, like this sun which is glaring at times and under the clouds at times. Your story should be unpredictable. Your story should be open and full of possibilities. Okay, we must think out of the box all the time, and I hope you understand what I mean. When you are given something to write, a writing like a story or a letter in any examination or school, classroom, wherever, take 5 minutes off, sit down, think about it, think what to write. Do not start writing then and there, think what to write. Think something beautiful out. Begin splendidly. Go about it remembering your word limit, but go about it in a way that it becomes real. Descriptions, names, framing sentences that are different from one another, that sounds interesting, pitted against each other. That is the way to write a very good story. I hope you have in today's class learned how to write a story. So, I am expecting now that you are going to write really splendid short stories. Okay, see you in my next class. Do keep tuned and spend more time outside your room. Spend more time under an open sky. Okay, so that will be it for today. See you.